You're watching PharmaconHealth, Science Meets Self-Care. We break down the science behind supplements, herbal remedies, personal care, fitness, drug information, and chronic care. All simplified for real life. Today on the PharmaconHealth podcast, our hosts dive into compelling insights on aloe vera, the plant that heals, skin, gut, and more. Whether you're here to discover something new, reflect on your health journey, or take meaningful steps toward better wellness, this episode is for you. Let's get into it.
And look, that common idea, it's definitely true. Aloe is great for soothing skin. But what these sources we've got laid out show is that bottle is, well, it's really just scratching the surface.
Ah, okay. So there's more to it than just the surface stuff.
Way more. This material presents aloe vera, the scientific name is Aloe barbadensis Miller, as this really quite powerful natural remedy. And its uses go way beyond skin. We're talking potential benefits for like digestion, maybe even immune support, things like that.
Wow, okay. Digestion and immunity too.
And this is like a really crucial point that runs through all these documents, these benefits. They really depend on using it the right way, responsibly.
Right. And that distinction, knowing how to use it properly, that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive. Our mission today is basically to take this whole collection of stuff, articles, research bits, notes, and just boil down everything they tell us about aloe vera. We'll look at what it actually is, botanically speaking. It's a really fascinating history, how these sources say it works on your body, skin, gut, the whole deal.
And the science behind it, the compounds involved.
Yeah, exactly what the science says, according to these papers, and critically, how you can actually use it safely, smartly, in everyday life. Everything we talk about, every tip, every historical tidbit, it's all coming straight from this material we have in front of us.
Nothing added.
Nothing added. Think of it as your shortcut, Moving past just the sunburn gel to understanding why this plant got names like plant of immortality and why people call it the plant that heals. It's sort of a journey connecting that ancient wisdom with what we're figuring out now.
And it's exactly that connection, between the really distant past and what's happening in labs today that these sources highlight so well. They show us this plant with a reputation that's, frankly, lasted for ages.
Right.
And its complex chemistry is now being looked at, studied, and in some cases, confirmed by modern science.
Yeah.
It's a plant with, well, literally deep roots, physically and historically speaking.
So let's start right there then. Let's dig into those roots, the plant itself. What is aloe vera, according to this material?
Okay, so the sources start by grounding us, giving us the basics. We're talking about aloe vera, or Aloe barbadensis Miller. That's the formal name. The material identifies it as a succulent plant.
Okay, succulent, like cacti and things that hold water.
Exactly. Succulents are adapted for dry places, right? They store water in their fleshy bits, the leaves usually, to get through droughts. So that tells you something about its structure, those thick, sort of fleshy leaves.
And where's it originally from?
The sources point to North Africa as its native region, which, is an area with a really long, rich history of using plants for medicine. So it suggests aloe was probably part of that tradition right from the get-go.
You can picture those leaves, right? Thick, green, sometimes spiky edges, that's the outside. But the sources really stress that the important stuff, the key to how it works and how to use it, is what's inside.
Two main things.
Two main things they keep coming back to. There's the clear gel right in the middle of the leaf, this sort of fillet part. And then there's this yellow sap, or latex, that's apparently just under the outer skin, the rind.
Yeah, just beneath the green part.
And this difference, gel versus latex, it's not just a minor detail, is it? The material makes it sound like it's absolutely fundamental. Like, you have to understand this difference to get how aloe works and, crucially, how to use it safely.
Absolutely. That internal leaf structure.
Yeah.
It sets up everything else we're going to talk about. And its history is just as complex and, frankly, amazing. The sources take us on this incredible trip through time. This is not some new health fad.
Right.
Think about the ancient Egyptians. They apparently held aloe vera in incredibly high regard. They actually called it the plant of immortality.
Wow. Plant of immortality. That's intense.
It really is. Now, the sources don't give us like a specific story for why they chose that exact name, but just the title itself. Especially coming from Egyptian culture, where eternal life and, being healthy for the afterlife was so huge. It says a lot.
Yeah, it implies they saw it as something more than just like first aid.
Definitely. More than a temporary fix. Something vital, maybe life-enhancing, maybe even regenerative in some deep way they perceived. Essential for, like, long-term well-being.
Yeah.
It suggests this real reverence, a belief in its power that goes way beyond just putting it on a burn.
Plant of immortality. That really sticks with you. And it wasn't just Egypt, was it? The sources say it popped up elsewhere.
Oh yeah, totally global.
Yeah.
The material mentions its use in other major traditional medicine systems, Indian Ayurveda, for one, and traditional Chinese medicine. The fact that these really distinct cultures, geographically separate, different philosophies of healing,
Right.
that they both independently recognized aloe and worked it into their practices, that really highlights how widespread its perceived value was. According to this material, anyway. It wasn't just a one-off thing.
And closer to home, sort of, in the Western traditions.
The source is connected to Greek medicine. They specifically name Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine.
Hippocrates
Yeah.
used aloe.
Apparently so, according to the sources. I mean, for a plant to be used and acknowledged by figures and systems that have literally shaped medicine for thousands of years, that's pretty remarkable. Speaks volumes about its staying power, as presented here.
It's an incredible history. There's one line in the source material that I thought just captured this huge timeline perfectly. It says, "This is a plant that spans empires, from Cleopatra's beauty rituals to modern cosmetic labs."
That's a great line.
Isn't it? You think of Cleopatra like the icon of ancient beauty and luxury, maybe using aloe, perhaps tying into that whole Egyptian plant of immortality thing for her skin or health. Then you fast forward thousands of years, right, to today's high-tech cosmetic science.
Yeah, analyzing it with machines, putting it in fancy formulas.
Exactly. That one sentence just paints this vivid picture of aloe's journey, how it stayed relevant, stayed valued across totally different times, different uses, different technologies, from ancient queens to, lab coats.
That historical backdrop is really powerful, sets the stage. But let's jump straight back to that really critical point. Inside the leaf, the gel versus the latex, because the sources frame this as the absolute key to using it safely and effectively.
Okay, right. Gel versus latex. Laid out for us.
The material is super clear on this. The inner part, the clear gel, sometimes called the inner leaf fillet, this is the part that's generally considered safe for both putting on your skin and for taking internally.
Okay, so the clear, gooey stuff, that's the versatile one. Good for inside and out, according to the sources.
That's what they indicate, yes. Now, the other component, that yellow sap or latex, the stuff right under the rind, that's a completely different situation.
Uh-oh.
The sources explicitly state this yellow latex contains a compound called aloin, A-L-O-I-N. And aloin is described pretty bluntly by the material as a potent laxative compound.
Potent laxative. Okay, yeah, that sounds like something you definitely need to know about before you ingest it.
Precisely. Understanding that aloin is concentrated right there in the latex, and it has this really strong effect on the body. The sources present this as absolutely fundamental. It's the main reason why aloe products meant for internal use have to be processed in a specific way to get rid of this stuff.
Right.
And it's why, as the sources warn later, just grabbing a leaf off your plant at home and trying to use it internally can be risky, potentially unsafe. You might accidentally get that latex. So gel versus latex. Not just plant biology trivia. It's the foundation for using aloe safely, based on this material.
Okay, got it. Plant structure, check. History, check. Gel versus latex, crucial distinction. Double check. So now let's get into how the sources say we can actually use this plant. Starting with the most familiar one, skin healing.
Yeah, when most people hear aloe vera, skincare is probably the first thing that pops into their head. And, for good reason.
Yeah.
The sources definitely confirm its widespread use topically, both traditionally and now. But they go deeper than just, say, cooling a sunburn. They talk about how it might actively help the healing process itself.
Right, you mentioned it's not just sitting there soothing, it's actively doing things, maybe at a cellular level. The source says it speeds up wound healing. How? What's the mechanism described in the material?
Okay, so the sources describe a sort of two-pronged action here. First, it's said to boost the activity of cells called fibroblasts.
Fibroblasts. Okay, what do they do?
Think of them as the body's little construction workers for tissue repair. They're in our connective tissue, and their main job is making collagen and other proteins that build the structure, the scaffolding of our skin. Super important for closing wounds, rebuilding damage.
Gotcha. Construction workers.
Right. And the second part of the action described is increasing collagen synthesis. Collagen, as most people know, is that main structural protein in skin, gives it strength, elasticity. So by potentially making these fibroblasts work harder and produce more collagen.
Aloe is basically helping the body fix itself faster.
According to the source, yeah. It's presented as actively supporting and speeding up the body's own natural repair systems, stimulating healing from inside the tissue, not just coating the surface.
There was that phrase in the source, triggering healing. That really elevates it, doesn't it? From just a cooling gel to something much more, well, active.
Dynamic is a good word. It implies it's directly interacting with the skin's biology.
And there was a quote about that too, wasn't there?
Yes, the source reinforces this with a really good quote. Aloe doesn't just sit on your skin. It actively triggers healing and hydrates at the cellular level.
Yeah.
That line's important because it suggests the effects aren't just superficial.
Right.
It implies that compounds in the aloe actually get into the skin, influence how cells behave, kickstart those repair processes, and also help lock in moisture deeper down, not just on the very top layer.
And what about common skin issues like acne? Do the sources touch on that?
They do. The material mentions potential benefits for acne and also for reducing inflammation in general.
Yeah.
Specifically for acne, it's noted to potentially reduce the bacteria that cause acne.
Okay, the acne bacteria themselves.
Yeah, a lot of breakouts get worse because the bacteria growing in pores, right?
Right.
So something that could help control those bacteria could be beneficial. It's also stated to reduce redness.
Which is a classic sign of inflammation.
Exactly. Redness is a hallmark of the inflammation you see with acne, but also with other skin irritations. So this suggests an anti-inflammatory action, kind of calming down the skin's reaction.
So, based on the source, it's tackling acne potentially from two angles, antibacterial and anti-inflammatory, reducing that redness.
That's how the material presents its effects regarding acne and inflammation, yes, addressing both those aspects.
And that quote also mentioned hydration at the cellular level.
Yeah.
The sources actually list specific compounds linked to moisture and anti-aging effects.
Right. The material points out that aloe gel is rich in things called mucopolysaccharides, also vitamins C and E.
Mucopolysaccharides sounds complex.
They are complex carbs, but in skin, they're fantastic humectants. That means they draw moisture in from the air and bind it within the skin. Hyaluronic acid, which is super popular in skincare now, that's actually a type of mucopolysaccharide.
Ah, okay, so that explains the hydration part.
Exactly. And then you have vitamins C and E. They're powerful antioxidants. Now, the sources don't spell out a specific anti-aging mechanism here beyond just listing them,
But we know C and E are good for skin generally.
right. They're well known in skincare for helping protect skin cells from oxidative stress damage from things like UV rays, pollution, which are big factors in premature aging. Vitamin C also helps with making collagen. So having them in the gel fits with supporting overall skin health, adding to the hydration from the mucopolysaccharides and backing up that quote about hydrating and potentially helping at the cellular level.
It's really cool how the plant's chemistry seems to translate directly into these skin benefits. And the sources even give a practical example, like a DIY thing.
They do. The material suggests a simple DIY face mask. Just aloe gel mixed with honey and turmeric.
Oh, interesting combo.
Yeah, it's a concrete recipe right from the source, not just theory. Honey is often used in traditional skincare, maybe for antibacterial or moisturizing effects. Turmeric is known for its strong anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So the idea here, based on the source, is to combine those with aloe's healing, hydrating, soothing properties for a kind of multi-pronged natural skin treatment.
That's a neat practical takeaway. Okay, so we've covered the skin stuff pretty thoroughly, the external uses. Now, the sources make this really interesting pivot, talking about using aloe from the inside out for digestion and gut health.
And this is where that gel versus latex distinction we talked about becomes, well, not just important, but absolutely critical, paramount.
Okay, dialing up the importance here.
Definitely. The sources are extremely specific about what form of aloe to use internally. It has to be decolorized and food-grade aloe vera juice or gel. That word decolorized is key.
What does decolorized mean exactly?
It means that the yellow latex layer, the part with that potent laxative aloin, has been specifically removed during processing.
Okay, so just to be crystal clear, this is not about grabbing a leaf from your garden plant, sticking it in a blender, and drinking it.
Right. Absolutely not. According to these sources, it requires specific commercial processing designed to make it safe for internal use. They really hammer this safety point home again and again.
Okay, so assuming you have the right stuff, the processed decolorized juice, what's the main benefit supposed to be internally?
The primary effect mentioned in the material is soothing the digestive tract.
Soothing the gut lining. How does it supposedly do that based on what's in the sources?
The material talks about something called the mucilage effect. Remember those mucopolysaccharides we mentioned for skin hydration?
Yeah, the moisture binding things.
Well, the idea is when you consume the processed gel or juice, these compounds form a kind of protective, soothing coating along the lining of your gastrointestinal tract, your GI tract.
Like it's creating a gentle internal barrier, coating the pipes, so to speak.
That's a pretty good way to think about the effect described. The sources actually list specific conditions where this coating effect is mentioned as potentially helpful. Things like leaky gut, gastritis, and IBS, irritable bowel syndrome.
Which often involve irritation or inflammation of the gut lining.
Exactly. So the thinking presented is that this mucilage coating could help shield that sensitive lining from irritants, maybe calm inflammation, and just create a healthier environment for things to settle down or heal, potentially providing relief for those conditions.
And wasn't there a quote linking the inside and outside effects? Kind of an analogy.
Yeah, there's a great line in the source for that. Just like it cools your skin, aloe calms the lining of your digestive system.
Yeah, I like that. Simple and clear.
It really connects the dots, doesn't it? It suggests this core property of aloe, its ability to calm, protect, maybe reduce inflammation in irritated tissues, whether that's your skin on the outside or your gut lining on the inside, according to the material anyway.
The sources also mention something about prebiotic potential. What does that mean in terms of gut health?
Okay, so the material states that aloe may support gut bacteria. Prebiotics are basically food for the good bacteria living in your gut. They're usually types of fiber that we don't digest, but our beneficial gut microbes can ferment them.
So feeding the good guys.
Exactly. That fermentation process helps the good bacteria thrive, which is really important for a healthy gut balance, your microbiome. Now, the sources don't specify which compounds in aloe act as prebiotics, but just mentioning the potential suggests that the juice might help create a better environment for those beneficial microbes. And it also mentions again that aloe may reduce inflammation internally, which circles back to that general anti-inflammatory idea and its relevance for gut issues where inflammation is often a factor, like IBS or leaky gut.
Okay, so potential soothing, potential support for good bacteria, but
Right.
we absolutely have to circle back to that massive warning about the latex for internal use.
Yes. This is probably the single most critical safety point in all the material, and the sources could not be clearer. Using aloe latex internally is presented as a bad idea, potentially harmful,
Because of the Aloin.
because of the aloin, which, as we said, the sources describe as a potent stimulant laxative. The material warns specifically that taking latex internally can cause severe cramping, which makes sense given how strong it is, and also, really importantly, dependency.
Dependency. Like your bowels stop working properly without it.
That's the risk highlighted. Your digestive system could become reliant on that strong stimulation from aloin just to function normally, which can lead to major problems with regularity if you stop taking it. It's a serious concern, not just a minor side effect.
Right.
And that stark difference in effect and safety is exactly why the sources are so insistent. Internally, use only the processed, decolorized, food-grade gel or juice where that aloin-rich latex has been removed.
Okay, message received loud and clear. Avoid the latex internally, and the sources even suggest how to start if someone does choose to try the safe processed juice.
Yes, they give a practical tip. The material suggests starting low specifically, just 1 tablespoon per day, and diluting it in water.
Start low, go slow.
Pretty much. It's standard advice when trying any new, potent, natural thing. Starting with a small amount lets your body get used to it. Lets you see how you react personally before you consider taking more. And diluting it probably makes it easier to drink and maybe a bit gentler too.
Okay, so we've gone from skin soothing on the outside to gut calming on the inside, nailing down those crucial safety points. Now let's bridge the gap between these effects and what's actually in the plant. What do the sources say about the science behind aloe? What are the compounds making it work?
Right, this part of the material dives into the specific bioactive compounds found in aloe vera that are thought to be responsible for its various actions. The sources list several key ones.
Like Acemannan.
Yes, Acemannan gets highlighted. The sources link it with potential immune and antiviral properties. Now, they don't go into the biochemical details of how it might do that, but just suggesting a plant compound could influence the immune system or have antiviral effects is pretty significant.
Yeah, it suggests aloe's effects might be broader than just local soothing. Maybe systemic support.
That's the implication from the association made in the material, yes.
Yeah.
Potential support for the body's defenses.
And then, of course, Aloin comes up again.
Correct. Aloin is listed here, too, as a bioactive compound, reinforcing that it is an active part of the plant, specifically in that latex layer. And its role is stated again, laxative.
Right.
And including it here kind of underscores that even the components we need to avoid for general use are part of the plant's complex makeup. They need to be understood and managed, which again points to why proper processing is so important for internal products meant for wellness, not for a strong laxative effect.
The sources also list vitamins present in the gel, right?
They do. Specifically names vitamins A, C, E, and even B12. Having these essential vitamins adds to the gel's overall nutritional profile.
A, C, E makes sense for skin and antioxidant stuff. B12 is a bit surprising in a plant, though.
It is less common, yeah. But their presence, as listed, just adds to the picture of the gel being biochemically complex and potentially supportive of health. Vitamin A is also key for vision, immunity, C for connective tissue, immunity, B12 for nerves, blood cells. The sources don't detail specific roles for them in aloe's action beyond just listing them, but they contribute to the overall package.
And enzymes, too, lipase and amylase.
Yes, those are mentioned. Lipase helps break down fats. Amylase breaks down carbs. They're digestive enzymes. Now, the source doesn't say if these enzymes are still active or how they function when you consume aloe.
But their presence hints at why it might be linked to digestion.
Potentially. Listing them alongside other active compounds suggests they're part of the plant's biochemical toolkit that might underlie some of its traditional uses, especially for the digestive system.
And then broader categories like saponins and polysaccharides.
Right? Polysaccharides, as we've discussed, include those mucopolysaccharides key for the gel's texture, hydration, and that internal coating effect. Saponins are another class of plant compounds, often have a soapy feel, can create foam, sometimes linked to cleansing or anti-inflammatory effects, but the source just lists them here as being in aloe without specifying their function in this context.
So the takeaway is that aloe isn't simple chemically, it's packed with different active molecules.
Exactly. It's presented as a rich mix of various bioactive compounds, and the idea is that these work together, perhaps synergistically, to produce the healing effects reported in the material.
And do the sources mention actual clinical evidence? Studies that back up some of these uses?
Yes, the material does point to areas where scientific studies or evidence reviews exist.
Yeah.
It explicitly states that clinical evidence shows aloe vera shortens burn healing time.
Okay, so science supporting the classic burn use.
Right. It also mentions evidence that it reduces dental plaque. That suggests a role in oral hygiene, maybe linked back to those potential antibacterial or anti-inflammatory properties.
Interesting. Toothpaste makes more sense now.
And importantly, it notes that aloe may lower blood sugar and may reduce inflammation.
Okay, that word may seems significant again, like potential, but maybe not slam dunk proven yet.
Precisely.
Yep.
May suggests there's evidence pointing that way, but it might need more research, or maybe the effect isn't seen in everyone, or the studies aren't large enough yet for definitive conclusions. But still, these areas, blood sugar control, which is huge for metabolic health, and inflammation reduction, relevant to so many conditions, are highlighted as places where science is investigating and finding potential benefits that align with traditional uses.
It really is striking how this modern scientific digging, as presented in the sources, seems to kind of echo or explain those ancient reputations. There's a quote about that, wasn't there? About labs confirming what healers knew.
Yes, this one really sums it up. Modern labs are confirming what ancient healers already knew. Aloe's chemistry is uniquely healing.
That perfectly captures it.
It bridges that gap, doesn't it? It respects the thousands of years of observation by traditional healers who saw the effects firsthand. And then it positions modern science as coming along and saying, okay, here's why it might work. By identifying the actual chemicals and mechanisms involved. It reinforces that the plant's long-standing reputation isn't just myth. It seems to have a real basis in its complex chemistry that science is now beginning to map out, giving us the why behind the ancient what.
Okay, fantastic. So we've got the plant ID, the history, the skin stuff, the gut stuff, the science behind it. Now, we need to shift to those really practical points that the sources stress are just as important. Safety, how to pick products, and how to actually use aloe smartly. Because, like the sources say flat out, not all aloe products are created equal.
Yeah, this is super important. Moving from the what it does to the how to use it safely and well in the real world based on this material. Started with putting it on your skin, topical use. The sources say it's generally safe.
Which makes sense given how long it's been used for burns and things.
Right. But even for skin use, they include a standard precaution. Do a patch test first.
Meaning, try a little bit on a small spot of skin first, wait and see if you react, before slathering it everywhere.
Exactly that. It's good advice for any new skincare product, really. Even though aloe is usually well tolerated on the skin, some people can still have sensitivities or allergic reactions to natural things. A patch test just helps you catch that before you have a bigger problem.
Okay, patch test for topical. Now, internal use. We've flagged the latex dangers multiple times. Let's just hammer home those rules from the source material one last time. Really underline it.
Cannot stress this enough, and the sources are incredibly firm here. For taking internally, you must use only food-grade aloe gel or juice that has been properly processed to remove the latex. The instruction to absolutely avoid drinking the latex is repeated because of that Aloin.
The potent laxative.
Potent stimulant laxative, yes. The sources clearly state taking it internally can cause severe cramping and, again, that risk of dependency, your gut potentially becoming reliant on it. That's a serious health issue, not a minor inconvenience.
Absolutely.
So that's why choosing products specifically labeled food-grade, decolorized aloe vera juice or gel is presented as essential. It ensures that all enriched latex is gone, making it safe for those soothing internal benefits described earlier, completely unlike crude extracts or, just blending a whole leaf from home.
Got it. That distinction is life or death almost for safe internal use. This part of the material also tackles some common ideas or maybe myths about aloe.
Yeah, it addresses a couple of things. First, the idea that aloe detoxes are maybe overhyped.
Oh,
The sources seem to suggest that while the juice can support healthy digestion and gut function, through that soothing effect, maybe the prebiotic potential, the whole popular idea of a big dramatic detox or cleanse, might be stretching it a bit, based on how it actually works according to the material. It's more about supporting your body's natural processes, not some kind of magic flush.
okay. Manages expectations on the detox front. What was the other myth? It related to the raw leaf again?
Exactly. The sources state that using raw leaf gel straight from the plant may be unsafe for internal use. And this ties right back to what we just discussed, how hard it is for someone at home to perfectly separate the clear inner gel from that thin layer of yellow, Aloin-filled latex right under the skin.
Even if you try to be careful, you might get some latex mixed in.
That's the risk highlighted. Commercial food-grade products go through specific processes designed to get that latex out, reducing Aloin to basically non-existent levels, ensuring it's safe to drink. So the material advises against just using your homegrown plant for internal benefits. Stick to the properly processed stuff.
That raw versus processed distinction is key for safety.
Okay, and if you are buying a processed product, the source gives a kind of checklist for picking a good one.
Yes, specific tips for smart shopping. First, they say, look for IASC certified.
IASC. What's that?
It stands for the International Aloe Science Council. Getting their certification is like a third-party stamp of approval. It means the product meets certain quality standards they've set. And for internal products, that includes checking that the aloin levels are extremely low or non-detectable. So the material presents it as a pretty reliable sign of quality and safe processing.
Okay, IASC certified. Good tip. What else?
The source is also advised checking the label for no added sugars or alcohol. Basically, aiming for a product that's as pure aloe as possible without extra stuff you might not want. Sugars add calories and aren't ideal for everyone's diet, and alcohol sometimes gets used as a preservative but isn't always desirable in a health drink.
Makes sense. Keep it clean. And the last point reinforces the safety warning again. Yes, the material strongly warns against buying crude extracts or latex drinks. This directly echoes all the warnings about the dangers of drinking unprocessed aloe or products that deliberately include the latex for its laxative effect, if you're looking for the other internal benefits like soothing. Those are the products likely to cause the cramping and dependency issues. Avoid them for general gut health use.
This whole section, safety, myths, buying tips, it really drives home a core message mentioned in the sources, doesn't it?
Right.
There was a quote about power and responsibility.
Ah, yes. Nature gives us powerful medicine, but power comes with responsibility. That nails it, right? It acknowledges that aloe is potent, it has benefits, proven by history and science according to these sources, but then it immediately says, okay, you, the user, need to be responsible.
Know what you're doing.
Exactly. Understand the crucial differences, like gel versus latex. Follow the safety rules. Choose products carefully. It's a reminder that doing the benefits means respecting the plant's power and using it knowledgeably, so you get the good stuff without the bad.
That feels like a really important takeaway, especially with that stark gelatex difference. Okay, so armed with all this knowledge, the plant history effects, science, safety rules, how do the sources suggest we actually weave aloe into daily life, put it into practice?
Right, the final stretch here is about practical application. Tangible ways to use aloe based on everything we've discussed. For skin, pretty straightforward stuff. suggests using aloe gel as a simple morning moisturizer.
Makes sense given the hydration properties.
Yeah. And it mentions its classic use as a sun gel, obviously, for after-sun soothing. It also nods to using it in a DIY serum, kind of like that mask idea, maybe mixing it with other things for specific skin goals.
Okay, simple everyday skin uses. What about getting it internally for digestion?
A couple of easy methods suggested for the safe, decolorized juice. One idea is mixing it with lemon juice and drinking it before meals. Lemon water itself is often used for digestion, so combining it with aloe's soothing effect could be a nice pairing. Another really simple way mentioned is just adding your dose of aloe juice to smoothies. Super convenient way to get it in, masks the taste if you don't love it, and you blend it with other healthy stuff.
Easy enough. And did the sources mention any other, maybe less common uses?
Yeah, a few others get a brief mention: aloe toothpaste, aloe shampoo, and even using it for scalp care.
Huh, interesting.
They don't elaborate much, but these uses hint that maybe the plant's properties, like potential antibacterial action for mouth or scalp, anti-inflammatory for gums or irritated scalp, moisture for hair and scalp, could be useful in these other personal care areas too. Just shows its versatility, according to the range of products mentioned in the material.
It really does seem like a multitasker plant based on all this. And the sources even have like a direct challenge for the listener, right? To try it out.
They do. They propose a specific 7-day aloe routine challenge. The idea is you deliberately use aloe for a week, maybe on your skin, maybe internally with the safe juice, or both following all the guidelines, of course.
And track what happens.
Yeah, actively track specific things. The source specifically suggests tracking skin glow and how your digestion feels. Makes it really concrete, right? An actual little experiment you can do based on this info. See if you notice any of the effects described in the material for yourself. Connect the knowledge to personal experience.
A 7-day challenge. Focus on skin and digestion. That's a really tangible way to cap off this deep dive, based right on the material. So maybe let's just quickly recap the whole journey we took into aloe vera.
Sounds good. So based purely on this stack of sources, we've seen aloe vera, Aloe barbadensis Miller, is way more complex than most of us probably thought. Not just for sunburns. It's a succulent with this incredible history going back to ancient Egypt's plant of immortality used across global traditions. And the absolute key takeaway is understanding the difference between the generally safe, clear inner gel and that potentially problematic yellow latex containing aloe.
Right. And we explored how the sources say it helps the body. For skin, speeding up healing, boosting collagen, fighting acne bacteria, calming redness, hydrating deep down. And for digestion, soothing the gut lining with that mucilage effect, maybe helping good gut bacteria, reducing inflammation, but only using that processed, decolorized food-grade juice internally because the latex is a no-go.
And we connected that to the science discussed in the material, looking at compounds like Acemannan, the vitamins, enzymes, polysaccharides. We saw the clinical evidence cited supports some uses, like faster burn healing, reduced dental plaque, and potentially helping with blood sugar and inflammation. We also covered the vital practical stuff, topical safety with patch tests, the absolute need to avoid internal latex, questioning detox hype and raw leaf use internally, and that checklist for buying good products looking for ISC certification, no added sugar alcohol, avoiding crude extracts.
It really emerges as this plant that sits right at the crossroads of ancient respect and modern investigation. The sources show its reputation as a plant that heals seems backed up by its chemistry and effects. So now, hopefully, you feel much better informed about this amazing plant, based solely on the material we explored, and crucially, how to approach using it safely and knowledgeably.
And this whole arc, from being revered as a plant of immortality thousands of years ago, used across cultures, to now having modern labs identify compounds, citing clinical studies, while also stressing this need for responsible use.
It really leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? Given this deep history of traditional knowledge around plants like aloe, which science is now starting to examine and in some cases validate, what does this ongoing exploration suggest about the potential that might still be hidden in other natural remedies? And what does it say about the careful balance we need to find, the responsibility we have in exploring and respecting both that ancient wisdom and rigorous scientific validation? It's like this constant conversation between past observations and present-day understanding.
Indeed. Keep asking questions, keep learning.
Thanks for joining us on the PharmaconHealth podcast. We hope today's insights help you take one step closer to better health and wellness. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you found this episode helpful. Until next time, stay informed, stay well,